You're listening to the Weirdo Book Podcast, Episode 4. I have one question for you today. What's wrong with being weird? Growing up, I always secretly admired the outcast. And maybe that was because I used to be one. I dressed different, I looked different, I even acted different. And so that kind of gave people cause to see that I wasn't normal. You're listening to the Warrior Rulebook Podcast with me, Monique Harmon. I love helping people express themselves, protect their peace, and be confident in being them. You may also know me as Pretty Nikki, who started her online journey as a modest fashion blogger. Now I'm an entrepreneur. You'll see through my experiences and the experiences of others that change is possible, improvement is tasty, and meaningful connection is transformational. Come on, share your story with me. The stories and information presented in my podcast is not intended to take the place of medical advice from a healthcare professional. So any exercise, diet, health-related, mental health matters vary from person to person. So nothing in the podcast will be construed or used as a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Any action taken based on the contents of this podcast or the resources is solely at your own discretion, risk, and liability. So this podcast is simply here to be encouraging, but you should definitely seek a healthcare professional for additional help. Now let's get on to the show. Other people constantly got bullied in school. I would end up talking to them and, just trying to encourage them that things will be okay. Things will be better. They're better than what people said about them, because I just always felt that need to encourage somebody even at that young age. And I got bullied myself too, just for how I dressed different. And I don't know, maybe my personality, maybe because I was really excited, and I was one of those people that were like a ball of sunshine, a ball of energy. I didn't want to, do bad things in class and stuff like that. So people attacked me for that ever since elementary school. And it happened a little bit in middle school. But then once I got to high school, I started getting the respect that I wanted to have and needed and deserved. People weren't meticulously trying to bring me down. And so my personality grew with that as I got older. And so my friends, they'll be like, Mo, you're so weird. They're like, girl, you crazy. Because they know I'm coming to them with something else. And so it's just fun being me. I embrace it because it's just fun, to look at things differently. People that are labeled weird and crazy, they see the world differently. And that sounds like a no-brainer, but they really do. They tend to express themselves more. They tend to think outside the box more. And they just kind of leave their options open when it comes to achieving something. They usually think on a deeper level with different topics, whereas someone that's mainstream might say the main thing of what's happening at an event or something that's happening in society. They may just kind of stick to whatever the majority of the people are saying, but it really takes somebody that's really thought of it differently and brought their unique view. You seeing their artwork that's kind of, unconventional, even with unconventional photography and different mediums of creativity, you can see that the people aren't, just going with something that's basic, something that has been accepted for years. And that's not to say that the people that think outside the box and are just really creative when they are creating something, it's not to say that they're weird or they're crazy, but I'm just saying that's kind of a stereotype for people that kind of create things that are different from the normal. And so I just think those labels are something to embrace, because it pretty much defines that you kind of went outside the box. It defines that you're embracing the fact that you're different, because all humans are different. But do we really acknowledge that without having a negative connotation towards that? I just came back from North Carolina. It was a blast. I was just hanging out with different business people and just kind of learning from them, like words of wisdom. And it was really nice because I learned to not prejudge, which is something that I learned is natural. I learned that in my communications class in college. But just to like see it again, it just further reinforces the fact that you can't prejudge people just by looking at them. And it really like helped me like open up my mindset, to go after my goals. And so it was really rewarding being in that place. And it seems like whenever people want to do something different, like not going to college or not taking the traditional route, which, for example, somebody might want to be an entrepreneur. I know that's a constant example that I use, but it's a really good one because I feel like business owners kind of have it hard because not everybody has a business that was left to them by their parents. Like a lot of people start from scratch and they kind of just like see what works and they try to build their business up from there. Even when it comes to doing something different, like becoming a music artist or an athlete, like people are quick to be like, oh, you should get like a normal job, or you should go to school and learn this skill because it's in demand. But it's like, if you're not going to be happy by doing that job, you're going to be miserable for a good chunk of your life. And who wants to do that? Something that really gets under my skin is like when somebody's like, do this, like you need to do this is normal. And it's like, how do you know I want normal? Like, I agree that there are areas of your life that should be normal, but whenever it comes to creativity or doing like some sort of profession, like you want to make sure that you're invested in it. Like you want to make sure that that's what you love to do, because if that's not what you love to do, you're not going to want to get up out of bed every day to go do it. You're just not. So it's like people kind of project what they think that you should do and they're not even doing it themselves. So it's like, how can you know that I'm going to be happy listening to what you say and that's not what I want to do? People that are called weird or crazy are open to new experiences. So they channel whatever's inside of them and they exercise that medium through art, photography, dance. Just a few examples. I believe everyone has a weird side to them. It's just that not everyone shows it. Now for the Warrior Rule book on section weirdos, I think the first rule is that you should share your personality. I've been labeled weird or crazy ever since I was a child. And maybe that's because I grew up as a church girl. I don't know. But I was bullied for being different. So constantly hearing that, I started to be more quiet and I wouldn't open up as much. Of course, people who really knew me still knew that I had a crazy side. Like I love to laugh. I love, just to be like, woo, happy-go-lucky. So I was still like that, but I was selective of who I exposed that side of me around. And I don't think that you should cover your personality because it's you. It's real. Like that's why we always hear that saying, stay true to yourself. And you don't want to have to change just because somebody else is uncomfortable with it. Maybe there needs to be a conversation about, okay, like I know my personality is out like this and I know it could be a little overwhelming. I'll try to tone it down, but I'm not going to get rid of it because I'm not asking you to get rid of your personality. So why would I get rid of mine? So when I was in college, I was turned down for a job because they said that I was too reserved. And had I really put myself out there, I would have had a better chance at getting the job. They wanted to know that they could rely on me to be open, approachable, and to be a good face for the company. But in that interview, I couldn't show that to them. And if the person that's interviewing you doesn't know who you are, how do they know that they want to work with you? How do they know that you're going to fulfill the goals of the company? How do they know that you're going to be able to take initiative and be a leader and do the right things, make the right decisions for the company? So I always say, just don't play it safe. I know everybody's personality is not out there and, just doing whatever, but it's just to say that whatever that piece of you that makes you really different. I guess it comes down to having like some sort of like conversation and you're kind of like hesitant to express your point of view. And people might think that what you say is weird, maybe because they're not used to it. Or maybe they just didn't think of it that way, but it necessarily doesn't mean that you're weird. It just means that you think differently, and there's nothing wrong with that. All of us are different, and so we all have different points of views. So after I stopped playing it safe and I exposed more of myself in the interview, I was more open, about my experiences and what I like, what I don't like. I did pick up a couple of jobs after that because people were able to see who I was. Like, I wasn't just hiding behind the woman that dresses modestly and is, quote unquote good. They need more than that just to, to see if they actually want to hire me. The second rule would be is embrace what makes you unique. Now, for example, with my fashion, there were certain trends that came out in our church, the turban scarf style, and I liked it, but I didn't want to do it right away because everybody started doing it. And I was like, that wasn't my style at the time. And so I did the little bantu knots that were at the front of my head, scarf style. And I liked it because it looked a lot different. It kind of felt like I was putting my own spin on my fashion, but that's a really simple example. I love wearing turbans now. They're amazing. But I just didn't want to look the same. And it wasn't knocking like the other sisters in the church. Like, I love their fashion. They be looking really nice. I just didn't want to look the same. Another example, I have this dress that has musical notes on it. Never seen anybody in my church wear that, or even in the world wear that. So just to find that, I was just really happy because I was like, nobody has this. And so it just kind of like goes with my quirky style. Like, I just really embraced like the quirky vibe because I feel like it's kind of nerdy / like different. So that's how I would define my style. For years we've been hearing that we all look different, and we are different. So we are different inside. Like, nobody has the same fingerprints, nobody has the same arms or anything like that. And so it's okay to have a different mind. It's okay to have a deep mind and to share your experiences, your personality. The third rule is know thyself. You ever join a club in school because your friend told you to, not because you were actually interested in that club? Nothing gets under my skin more than someone that, strings you along or pushes you in to do something that in your heart you don't want to do. And it's like, they don't really have a sound argument for it. They're just like pushing you into it just to say like, you need to do this. But it's like, if you don't know, if the other person that's like being pushy doesn't know what you want, what your goal is, then it's not fair of them to push you into doing something just because it's convenient. Maybe that's not what you want to do at all. And so I would just say, like, know your limits, be firm. If you don't want to do that, like, what's going to make you you. Don't go along and just agree with anything that somebody tells you to do, because they're not you. So that would be the same thing. Like, if you told them that they need to do something, or like, you can suggest things, but like constantly pushing the person do something or make a decision that they don't want to do, you shouldn't do that. And it'll feel wrong, if you're just going along with something just because somebody tells you to do it, not because you actually want to do it. You won't be happy, and it'll be like you're trying to satisfy them and not yourself. Rule number 4, normal is boring. I love pineapples on my pizza, and I get a lot of backlash for that just because it's different from what most people want. If you want to be basic and eat your pepperoni pizza, go ahead, but I'm gonna eat pineapple pizza and I'm gonna be happy about it. I read actual vampire books. I used to read all the vampire books, like not just Twilight, the other vampire books as well. I was into werewolves. I loved writing books myself. I just like trying a lot of different things. I didn't really make it into the music realm, but I was into fandoms and stuff like that and shipping people together. I think you should create your own path. Do whatever you want, as long as it's, the right thing to do. People know who you are. You get to learn who they are, because it's like, if you're constantly covered in layers, how can anyone relate to you? How can anyone really have a connection with you? And I get it. not everybody wants to have a connection with people, but you don't want to have such a poker face like all the time that no one can actually talk to you. It's like walking on pins and needles when you're around each other. It's awkward because they don't really know what to say to you because you're kind of just closed off. You don't show any opinions, you don't show any emotions. So I just don't think that that's healthy. You should be able to walk around comfortably and be confident in who you are. Now, I'm not saying, expose your deepest secrets and desires to everyone. I'm not saying that at all, but there's nothing wrong with showing your personality because people like you. So thank you guys for listening to the Warrior Rulebook podcast. Let me know in the comments and your feedback to this episode. Are people that think differently weird? And how would you feel if you got called weird or crazy? Let me know. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Warrior Rulebook podcast. If you like what you heard, share it with a friend and join me over at the Warrior Rulebook Podcast Insider group on Facebook. And don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for more tips on how to be resilient in this world.